Hey everyone, it's Kai from WCC, and today we're going to look at Nova Grapplers from Infinideity Cradle. They got some interesting stuff from that set. They got the new Godhand Dragon, which looks pretty cool and was really hyped up at first, but testing has kind of shown it to be a bit, how would you say it, not as awesome as one would have thought. So we'll go through the deck first, talk a bit about it, how it fares in the metagame, which is should be pretty interesting, and why I wouldn't play this at a singles tournament. Now, start with the grade threes. Pretty easy. We're running for Godhand Dragon. Let's focus in a bit more. Yeah, so for Godhand Dragon, this card is pretty much the centerpiece of the entire deck. The effect is that it increases all the front triggers revealed for your drive check by 10,000. And then when it attacks, you can counterblast 1 and discard a card from your hand, and until the end of battle, this unit gets drive +1. And if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this unit gets +1 critical. So basically what this means is that you just get an extra drive check. You don't actually get any advantage. A lot of these new Nova Grappler cards just absolutely generate 0 advantage, which is very sad because it really limits the amount of playstyles that you can do for them. But yeah, this card pretty much just says your front triggers get fat, your opponent has to guard this card, or you win the game quicker. So pretty much a must-have to guard. And then we're also running 2 Power Trooper Sing. Now, a lot of decks at the beginning only played 4 Godhand Dragon, and then some also played 2 extra random cards. You can play Illuminal Dragon, for example. That's okay. You can also run Azure Dragon if you just want that extra draw when you misride your Godhand. The problem is, the deck really doesn't do anything if you don't have Godhand Dragon. But then again, even when you do have Godhand Dragon, you still need to have a bit of luck and all that. So you could kind of try and increase your okay ride targets with something like Azure Dragon. But we're going with Sing. What this does is that when it attacks, you can counterblast 1. And then discard a card from your hand. So again, you're generating no advantage here. This card gets -1 drive, and then it does drive checks when it fights. So basically it means you discard a card to do a drive check. So better chance to trigger a front trigger, which is basically what the deck has to revolve all around. But those are basically the grade 3s you're running. You're only running 6, so that's that. Now, moving on to the grade 2 lineup. So we're running 4 Fusing Striker. So this is one of the better cards that we've gotten in the set that supports this archetype. Fusing Striker also increases your front trigger effects, only by 5k though. But also when placed, you may look at the top 5 cards of your hand and then reveal up to 1 Fighting Fist Dragon, Godhand Dragon from among them and put it into your hand. And then you discard a card. So unfortunately, you just don't get a free plus unlike other decks. But yeah, at least it can help you search out your Godhand Dragon, which is what you have to get in order to actually play the game. Other cards that you're running Odd Puncher Selman. This guy revolves around triggering front triggers. When you trigger a front trigger, or when your drive check reveals a front trigger, you can get 1 crit. So it gets 1 crit once per turn. So it basically means that they have to guard this card because, yeah, it gets a crit. And it's probably fat from that fattened up front trigger as well. You're also running 4 Kick Typhoons. This is one of the few ways that Nova Grappler is able to do multi-attacks. There is also the other high-powered Custom Riser. When boosted with a Battle Riser, you can stand something when it hits. So a lot of people run that build, but we're actually not running that. We're running something different. We're running Quatron Liger. Now, this effect is very simple. When this attack hits a Vanguard, you can Soul Blast 1 and draw a card. So why are we running this over high-powered custom? Technically, this deck is very, very all-in. So running the high-powered custom makes a lot more sense because you have the chance to stand your other rear guards to do more attacks. So basically, you want to stand that crit trigger. You want to sail in to stand it. Oh, it has a crit. Oh, it's big. You have to guard this. Blah blah blah, and then you're dead, right? What actually happens in practice is that you don't. It's quite possible that your opponent survives your one big turn, and then if you're against a deck like Murakumo, which has a field wipe, and a lot of decks have field wipe nowadays, you're dead. They just wipe your field and you're dunzos. So we have to think of when we're doing our attacks, when we're doing our big turn, what is like the most dangerous card on the field? Like in terms of threat priority, if you're the opposing player, what are you guarding? What are you guarding? You're definitely guarding cards that are getting crit. So you're guarding the Vanguard because it has an unknown factor in the amount of power it gains. So you're definitely like doing a null guard on that. And if you're not null guarding, you're no guarding. You're definitely guarding Solon because it deals 2 damage. It deals 2 damage. So you have to. It's basically taking 2 attacks when you take that 1 attack. And you can also you can bank on the fact that this Godhand Dragon build does not run crits, so you're basically just taking 1s and 2s, so you can map out that damage pretty easily. But after those cards, the other high priority card that you need to guard is something like a high powered custom, and after that is just whatever. They can just take those 1s and 1s and then kill, like do a lot of damage to you next turn and then just kill you. The other thing is that when you play against Godhand Dragon, you recognize that giving Godhand Dragon a lot of damage means they can play a lot of kicks and put down a lot of high-powered customs, and then just put on heaps of pressure on that one single turn that you might die from that. So a lot of the ways to counteract Godhand Dragon is to lower the amount of damage you deal until you can absolutely demolish their entire hand, either with a board wipe or continuously attacking their rearguards to lower their card quality. After that, their pressure just suddenly drops significantly and you can win. You can just like slowly kill them from like 1 damage or 0 damage and then just destroy them over 2 or 3 turns and not have to worry about what they're playing down. Because this deck doesn't really generate any advantage apart from draw triggers. So running something like a Quatron Liger, which has an on-hit Soul Blast 1 draw, this card is technically very although it has an on-hit, it's getting fat in such a way when you trigger a front trigger that they don't really want to guard this. They don't want to commit good cards to guard a +1 that you get, but how good is that +1 for you? You don't know. It's an unknown quality. You could just draw jank. It doesn't matter. So getting this +1 draw, you can get it quite often. You can restand it to get another draw. Okay, it's okay like that. And then that 1 card could maybe let you live to the next turn to just do another okay turn. Not a big turn because you've already used your big turn, but let you get an okay turn that might be able to just finish off your opponent or just get you like that null that you desperately need or something like that. So basically, the way I'm seeing is that if you're playing the high-powered custom, you're definitely committing yourself to an all-in game, but you play against your tough matchups like Murakumo, which just start damage denying you or giving you very little amount of damage, or your high-powered custom suddenly is not that useful. Of course, if you commit your high-powered customs early, along with kicking, you can make a very strong turn early, but that also means that your opponent is able to more effectively damage deny you as well. So it's kind of a weird trade-off. Basically, when you play this deck, you're looking at 2 big turns, or 1 big turn plus 1 okay turn to kill off your opponent. And then that okay turn is either before you ride your grade 3 or the turn after you ride grade 3. So it comes down to that. That's why I'm running the Quatron Liger more, because I just want to be able to have that extra draw, which gives me the extra possibility or the extra card in my hand that I can use to maybe survive or live or do something like that. And then possibly finish them off on the next turn. Moving on to the grade 1s, we're running our Grit Bengal. We will definitely run this card. This lets us stack a front trigger to the top of the deck. When it comes into play, just put a front trigger from your hand to the top of your deck. Very simple effect, but very strong effect. We're also running Silverfist, Starfighter Silverfist. Makes our front triggers bigger. And also has when it hits a Vanguard, you can draw a card. And then you discard a card from your hand, which is pretty... I don't know what to say, right? Like every other clan has gotten something where you ride it as Vanguard and on hit you just draw a card. And this one has this other effect where you just draw a card and discard a card, which really puts a big damper on the whole archetype itself. And the last card we're running is Clefs. All right, Clefs lets you when your drive check reveals a normal unit, you can retire this card if you have a Godhand Dragon on the field, and you have to counterblast 1. And your Vanguard gets +1 drive until the end of turn. So basically, when you trigger a blank, you have the opportunity to trigger another card at the cost of sacrificing this card. So it's still not a +1. So again, you see a very, very common theme here. Nothing gives you pluses at all, apart from Quattro Liger. And then lastly, we will move on to our trigger lineup. And we're running a very standard trigger lineup. Running our Tiger, our Beast Deity. You can actually run Battle Riser instead, because you can kind of trick your opponent into thinking you're running a high-powered customs in your deck. Or if you just run this, you're kind of showing, hey, I could be running Beast Deities. So hey. You're also running 4 heals, 4 fronts. I mean 8 fronts. Sorry. Ooh, going 4 fronts. You're pretty ballsy, and 4 draws. So this trigger lineup you can actually change. You can play 12 fronts, and you can take out either your draws or your heals. Now, the question is, what do you take out? You will take out the heals, in my opinion, because you definitely do value your draws more, simply because they can draw, and they are null, and nulls are pretty decent in the current metagame still, because they can just block those big attacks. So if you really want to go 12 front, take out heals first, in my opinion. If you really don't like draws, then I guess just take out the draws, and you can even run like grade 1 nulls as well. But yeah, the draws are one of the few cards that let you dig more into your deck, although they're inconsistent. But that's basically how the entire deck is. It is just not very consistent. So where does this deck really fit in the current metagame? I think this deck is actually not that good. It is basically Tachikaze light, except Tachikaze lets you dig through your deck a bit. It is much more aggressive, although it doesn't hit the possibly high numbers that this deck can do. It actually has good pressure, right? Tachikaze can wipe your opponent's board, as well as destroying your opponent with like 7 attacks a turn. This deck sometimes can multi-attack a lot, but it has to go through a lot of these loops of Kick, Typhoon and all that, so it's not as easy, it's not as free. And then when you're playing Tachikaze, you have a lot of ways to generate advantage, right? You're man, those T-Rex names. So you have a lot of dinosaurs that can help you generate advantage, and you can run a pretty conventional trigger lineup like 6/6, which is pretty good. While this deck, you're forced to run fronts, so that's kind of a bummer. Like the crits in Tachikaze is surprisingly effective because you threaten your opponent with lethal at like 4, and will just really speed up the game compared to just letting your opponent map out fronts and not threatening. Furthermore, you've got other decks that just like really don't care. Very strong one-turn decks that will just wipe you out when you don't have much hand, simply because you just don't draw enough. Pale Moon, for example. Shadows, they'll wipe your board and then just get crits. Nubatama, yeah, they'll make you discard your board and then kill you again. So you've got all these great decks where you have this one single all-in play, and you really have to bank on that, and it just doesn't feel effective. So I would really never take this deck into a singles tournament at all. Teams maybe as like a third deck, but I just don't feel it's consistent enough to make that big of an impact. We're going to a metagame where accel is, well, it already is super amazing, and you've got different accel decks that can do different things. You've got Murakumo, which is aggressive board wipe accel deck. You've got Tachikaze, which is what this deck is competing with, which is like a rush board wipe kind of deck with lots of big power pressure. This one is basically that, except it just doesn't do it as well. And then the other accel clans are like Pale Moon, generates heaps of power and heaps of advantage. And then you still got more coming. Gold Paladin's coming. You got Great Nature's coming as well. So yeah, it's just so many good accel clans. Why are you picking a Nova Grappler? And especially, why are you picking Godhand? You can actually just pick Beast Deity and probably do just as good. So overall, I feel Godhand, there's a lot of work that needs to be done for this archetype. If you really like Nova Grapplers, go back to Beast Deity. They're still good. They're still cool. They still got the robots. So yeah, that's it from me. If you want to buy the cards, check out our affiliate in the description below. And see you guys there. Bye.